my way or else. I sometimes wonder why my family lets me go back to the beach. There are 3 things I tend to do at a beach. 1, I go on life-threateningly long walks. They haven't taken me to the hospital, but they almost took me twice. I go body surfing, which may not be the smoothest move at my age and with my girth. And I also build sand condos. Can't call them castles because they're highly disposable. They look pretty lousy. And I build them when the tide is coming in. And this goes all the way back to when my kids were really, really little. So I'd plop myself down there on the beach and I'd start scooping out the sand and I'd start building my little piles. Oh, can we do it? Sure. And when I first started doing the sanding stuff with them, I tried telling them, no. Don't make a real long, thin line because the real long, thin line is going to get wiped out by the first wave that comes by. And first wave comes and whoosh, there goes their line of sand. And there's mine, it's building up bigger and bigger. See, Dad's way is the right way. And that's why my way is the only way. And finally, when they got older, they learned, if you build that super long, thin line, you got nothing to show for it. But they asked, Dad, why do you do this? I mean, you're an adult, and right now, all my kids pretty much are adults. Why do you continue to do this? We're not little kids anymore. And I said, well, you know why I put the rocks in the middle of the river, right? Yeah, that's because when that rock gets moved, it's going to take something really big to change that. You're able to do something and it has an impact, even if it's just moving a rock. Well, this is the opposite of that. I do this when the water is coming in. And like it says in Ecclesiastes, vanity, vanity, all is vanity. Is this going to last? Nope. Did I make an effort? Yeah. Does the fact that I make the effort change the fact it's going to just go away? Nope. Okay. I do this to remind myself, push comes to shove, I'm not that important. But what I do for God can have an eternal impact. When I'm on this world, if all I'm doing is building little piles of sand that when the tide comes in get washed away, and that's what I'm banking my importance on, I'm missing the point. So every time I go to the beach, along with my suicide walks, my body surfing, I'm also building castles that are going to get wiped out. And keep that kind of thought in mind as we look at Joshua. We're in chapter 22 now, and beginning with verse 1, then Joshua summoned the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh, and said to them, you've observed all that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, and have obeyed me in all that I have commanded you. You've not forsaken your kindred these many years, or many days, down to this day, but have been careful to keep the charge of the Lord your God. And now the Lord your God has given rest to your kindred as he promised them. Therefore, turn and go to your tents in the land where your possession lies, which Moses, the servant of the Lord, gave you on the other side of the Jordan. Take good care to observe the commandment and instruction that Moses, the servant of the Lord, commanded you, to love the Lord your God, to walk in all his ways, to keep his commandments, and to hold fast to him, and to serve him with all your heart and with all your soul. And to hear that, it sounds good. He's praising them. You stuck it out. You had possession on the other side of the water, but you did as God and as Moses commanded. You went before your brothers in battle. You've obeyed. And now that things are settled out, good on you. Go and continue in your faith in the Lord. That sounds like a good situation. And then we jump down a little bit farther in the chapter. When they came to the region near the Jordan that lies in the land of Canaan, the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh built there an altar by the Jordan. an altar of great size. The Israelites heard that the Reubenites and the Gadites and the half-tribe of Manasseh had built an altar at the frontier of the land of Canaan, in the region near the Jordan, on the side that belongs to the Israelites. And when the people of Israel heard of it, the whole assembly of the Israelites gathered in Shiloh to make war against them. Let's put that into a little bit of perspective. First couple of verses. You're good guys. You've done great. We're glad. Head on home. Obey God. It'll be good. Next thing. Oh, look at what they've done. Let's kill them all. It's like, hello. That seems like a little bit of an extreme mood swing there. Do you remember the people you were just talking to? And you have to wonder. All of a sudden it appears to be bad. And obviously the appears word is important there. We jump farther down into that passage and we find, then the Reubenites, the Gadites, and the half-tribe of Manasseh said in answer to the heads of the family of Israel, the Lord God of gods, the Lord God of gods. And okay, thing you got to remember here is, this isn't being said inside of an auditorium with an echo. In Hebrew poetry, to show reverence for God, they did their own built-in written echo. God, 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 God. Is, great, 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 great. Obviously, they had an idea and they put it into print that way. And I think it's funny the few times that you actually encounter it. What they're trying to do in their response here is show how great a reverence they do have for God by saying the exact same thing twice, like the echo and the grandeur that they see in God. He knows, and let Israel itself know. If it was in rebellion or in breach of faith toward the Lord, do not spare us today for building an altar to turn away from following the Lord, or if we did so, to offer burnt offerings or grain offerings or burnt offerings of well-being on it. May the Lord himself take vengeance. No, we did it from fear that in time to come, your children might say to our children, what have you to do with the Lord, the God of Israel? They had a reason. And that reason sort of straightens things out. And I say sort of because think about the mood swing. The mood swing or attitude shows an underlying problem, something that's present that's not really getting explored here. And the way the passage ends, the Reubenites and the Gadites called the altar witness. For, said they, it is a witness between us that the Lord is God. And if all we do is read about the account, we're missing what was there that was sort of obvious. How in the world do you go from it's really good to, oh, we're going to kill you in war, back to, oh, it's really good? Because this isn't the first altar that's gone up like that. When they crossed into the promised land all the way back in Joshua sort of 2, 3, and 4. In 2, it tells them select the men. In 3, it tells them what to do. In 4, they actually accomplish it. When they crossed the river Jordan into the promised land, a representative from each tribe takes a rock from the Jordan over to the other side, sets it up as an altar, as a memorial. Something by which they will remember what God did. Not only did God miraculously make it possible for them to cross the Jordan River during flood season, but he also fulfilled the promise he had made to their fathers. I am giving you the land. The promise fulfillment begins here and now. That memorial was saying God is doing what God has said he will do. And in this instance, they were setting up a similar kind of a memorial. This is to remind both you and us. We are just like you in that we are God's people. We revere God, and for themselves even. There's a standard. We set up a model of it across the river to remind ourselves what we are to be as a people. Sometimes we get caught up in things in weird ways and miss the point. What kind of dad would I have been if I was giving my kids strict instructions about how to build the sandcastles? You'd have been a control freak, Rich, which maybe I am at times. But we get it when it's just the sandcastle. Do we get it when it's other things that really aren't as important as we tend to put the importance upon them? What kind of people were we describing in the first couple of verses? A people that went before all others in war. You want the property on the other side of the Jordan? Fine. You will go in first. What did they do? They obeyed God and went in first. What did they do? You've obeyed God this whole time. And all of a sudden, what are they doing? Oh, they're going wacko jacko and we got to kill them all. Whoa. Take the time, calm down, and think about it. And on and off topic a bit, Mark 9:41. For truly I tell you, whoever gives you a cup of water to drink because you bear the name of Christ will by no means lose the reward. And I bring this up because sometimes we're doing the same kind of stinking thinking with this that they were doing back there in Joshua 22. If the person who walks up to me and gives me the drink of water because I'm a Christian from a different denomination, did what they did all of a sudden become wrong or useless? Or are they doing good? And how I used to try to teach this to little kids when I was playing basketball with them as their coach, and I'm a terrible basketball coach, I'll tell you that right now. But I told them, if you work really, really hard, you dribble all the way down that court, you take the layup, and the ball goes in. Is it a good or a bad thing? Well, obviously it's a good thing. And I said, yes, it's a good thing, because you worked hard to be able to do that good. Now, what happens when a kid on the other team dribbles all the way down the court, does a layup, makes the basket? Is it a good or a bad thing? And obviously with little kids, the immediate answer is, well, it's bad because they scored and we're supposed to win. It's supposed to be us. And it's that when you take the time and say, okay, that's sort of the my way or the highway standpoint. Either we win and it's good, or we don't win and it's bad. All of a sudden, something that was good became bad, not because bad was ever done. And I told them, okay, we're not going to play basketball that way. When you work hard and get good enough to shoot and make a basket, that's a good thing. When a kid on another team works hard, shoots, and makes the basket, when they make the basket, you tell them, good job! Why? Because doing good is doing good always, whether they're on your team or not. We send out a confusing message in this world when it's my way, done by people I approve of, or it's no good at all. Better to not participate in a food drive than to associate with. Really? Does good all of a sudden become bad based on the context? Or is doing good regardless of who's involved with doing good? We need to realize the message we need to communicate needs to be a consistent one. Because otherwise, kids aren't going to know when it's good or when it's not. Well, it's sort of good sometimes, except when. No, good is good. They couldn't deal with that straight up answer because, well, it didn't come from us. So obviously they've gone off the reservation and are going rebel against God, except for the fact that if we thought about it, we've done something like this before. We did something to remind ourselves. God directed us in that case. In this case, they're doing the exact same kind of thing. They didn't set up the altar to make a sacrifice on it. They set it up as a reminder. We need to be clear, not just with our kids, but truthfully with ourselves. When is good, good? The passage we just read in Mark didn't say, oh, except when. When a person does good, because you're a Christian, because it's done in the name of Christ, don't second guess the good. You can work on teaching the person. Don't deny the good that they've done because of where you're at. And I realize this can get as cluttered and confusing at times as the picture I've put up on the screen. But when things start to get confusing, take the time to ask. They went back there in Joshua ready to let them know, this is looking terrible. They took a representative from each tribe along with the priests. Okay, we're upset because, fortunately, they got a right response. I think they could have gotten the same right response if they went a little bit calmer instead of prepared for war and said, hey, we're concerned. Because what we think we see is, and we want to know what's really going on. It's a whole lot better to ask than to start a war over something that really wasn't important at all. In Matthew 5:31 through 37, it reads, again you have heard that it was said to those in ancient times, you shall not swear falsely, but carry out the vows you have made to the Lord. But I say to you, do not swear at all, either by heaven, for it is the throne of God, or by the earth, for it is his footstool, or by Jerusalem, for it is the city of the great king. And do not swear by your head, for you cannot make one hair white or black. Let your word be yes, yes, or no, no. Anything more than this comes from the evil one. We need to realize it's not about the grandeur of what I'm doing. Because you know what? Here today, gone tomorrow. It's not the importance of the title or the recognition somebody gives me because of what I'm doing. Because 100 years from now, you're dead like Rover, dead all over. When we look at it from a worldly, wrong perspective, and the people Jesus was talking to at this time, they would swear by the gold in the temple. Because if you swore by the gold, it was even more significant because the gold was made sacred by being in the temple, and the gold had real value. So it's not just sacred, it's valuable sacred. So that kind of swearing is even more important. No, it's not. If you're going to do it, say, yes, I'm going to do it. If you're not going to do it, say, no, I'm not going to do it. Why? Because the simple act of doing or not doing is where all the difference lies. It's not in building it up. It's not in how we package it. It's taking the time to find out. It's taking the time to act in accordance with what God's word says. When you look at the picture, what do you see? Some of you might see, wow, that's a pretty cool sandcastle. Some of you might not even see the castle because you don't care about sand on the beach. What you care about is the boats out there in the water, because boats are awesome. I'm one of those ones that get seasick. Boats are so not in my awesome category. We can all see the same picture and look at it totally different ways. And I guess that's part of it. Because it's not just what you see that is there, it's what you're looking to see. And if we think all the way back to Joshua, you have to wonder, what were they looking to see if they are ready for war? And just to give this a New Testament kind of context, when we look at Luke chapter 10, verses 29 through 37, it's the parable of the Good Samaritan. And when we read that parable, yeah, we hear about the priest, we hear about the Levite, and they go walking on by, and then you've got the Good Samaritan. And unfortunately, we read that with our today kind of context. We get that, oh yeah, the Levites, they were the chosen tribe. They were the ones that were the direct sons, whereas the rest of us are all bought with a price. Talking about from a Jewish context. And oh yeah, the priests, they're the extra special ones because they're the ones serving before God. So they're an even better kind of people. And then there's the Samaritan. And okay, this means more if I was saying it about 30 to 40 years ago. Nowadays it might not work as well because people don't get the context. They're the half-breeds. And back 30 to 40 years ago, half-breed was unfortunately too common a term, especially if you were up in the Northeast and you're talking to a group of Indians. Because that meant you were a compromiser. It meant racially you weren't either. For the Samaritans, they were part of the not either. There were the Jews, there were the Gentiles, and then there were the really messed up ones. This was racism at its worst. Because there was the Jews, then there were the dogs, and then there were those below being a dog. We've got to realize this is an ugly picture that's being created on purpose. Because in all of that ugly of racism, who's the one who comes out shining like a star? The one that's supposed to be the ugliest. And who's supposed to shine like that bright and shining star of awesomeness? At least the Levites, and definitely the priests, who by their actions showed where they were really looking. They weren't looking to God's good, they were looking to their self-importance. And when it's got to be my way to be right, trust me, your way is so not the right way. The Samaritan was held up as the awesome example to try to wake him up. It's not about what you look like. It's not about the title you do or don't have. It's what are you really? The Samaritan was the one acting in a godly way. The Samaritan was the one putting the needs of another above their own safety even. Because I can tell you right now, you go on mission trips in South America, if you see somebody bloodied on the side of the road, every driver will speed up and swerve. Because 99 out of 100 times, that's a setup. Yes, that person is beat up and bloodied. I'm not denying that. It's the other 20 to 30 people with knives and guns that are hiding in the bushes that they're speeding up for. And in one instance, I know that, yes, they actually got to see when they looked back, the people come running out into the road as they drove by. The Samaritan is putting his own safety below the needs of the one who's suffering there on the side of the road. The Samaritan is the one that's showing the godly example. And in Matthew 12:34, we get to see things are based on the way that they are and not how we see them. And you really need to be thinking about how Jesus did it all. He didn't walk around and say, oh, Robert Bell's a good man, but boy, is he a sinner. Rich Kelly, you know what? Not only does he have a big mouth, he's a sinner too. And yeah, this group over here, boy, are they real bad sinners. And that doesn't sound familiar from Scripture because that's not the example Christ gave us. He didn't go around pointing out the problems, looking for the fight, declaring war on every sinner out there. When we look at the book of Joshua, yeah, there's a lot of mess up going on in there. And sometimes the mess up's pretty big. I'd have to say war over something where somebody didn't do anything wrong is a really big mess up that almost happened. But the book of Joshua is a warning. It's a warning that we need to take the time to listen to think about, and think about the change it should make in our lives, just like Joshua was hoping it would make a change in the lives of the generation that came next. Because a warning is an opportunity to change. And if you think about when Jesus came, what was it? It was a warning, it was a calling to a different way. And as sure as the Pharisees and Sadducees were that theirs was the right way, I think God's way is better. And as sure as sometimes we get it into our minds, it needs to be done, maybe the thing we need to do is take the step back. Consider who it is we're looking at in a goofy way and realize Robert Bell's a man I can respect. If there's a question or a concern I have with Robert, the first thing I need to do is go to Robert. Trust that he is the person he has shown himself to be, and act in love in going to him. Trust in God that if he gave his son as an opportunity for each of us, that when he offers his son and we take him on in baptism, it's not the beginning of judgment, it's the beginning of a new life. That when he calls us to take up our cross daily and follow him, it's not the opportunity to suffer gloriously, it's the opportunity to strive to be more like his son in a way that, unlike the castles in the sand, have an impact, not just here, but all the way to eternity. If you need to take on Christ in baptism, or you need the prayers of the church, you're more than welcome to come as we stand and sing.